You weak bastard. Today, we discuss some of the more colourful history of bodybuilding. We're pretty tolerant here, so if you got kicked out of the gym, you must have been a real dick. We talk about some of those people today, plus some training and rehab stuff. Enjoy.
All sorted.
Okay, so I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but I had someone asked a really good question that I liked, and you can name names if you want. I can edit it out later. I can bleep it out or whatever. But there's some good stories about this gym, and some changes that you had to make, here and the gym that we had in Camberwell. Fixing the culture. There was a bit of there were a few people who weren't very good for the culture of the gym that needed to be removed. So, could you tell me some stories?
The funniest story that I had was we'd been there about 6 months at Camberwell, and Camberwell was really out of control when we went there. But
so this is the mid-90s, right?
Yeah, mid-90s. Yeah. And anyway, there was one guy and his followers that was sort of still being a nuisance and needed to be fixed. Either toe the line or get out.
So what were the what sort of problems were they causing?
Swearing, leaving weights out, not unloading bars and things. Just general, all the rules of the gym that they weren't going to abide by, they thought. And anyway, I had an instance, and the girl over there rang me and said, "Bruce, come on, this is getting out of control. We need to have things." I said, "I'll come over and have a chat." And I saw Barry that day, and he said, "Oh, I hear you're having trouble." And I said, "No, mate, no, we've got it under control. Be all right." Anyway, the next day I went over there and had a chat to him, and he was, "Why, what are you going to do? Call the cops?" Because that's what the previous owners used to do when they had trouble. I said, no, I won't bother with that. And he said, "Oh, yeah, tough, are you?" I said, no, I'm not tough at all. I said, "But you're not tough either." And, we finished on not the best of things, but he was indicating he was the toughest and wasn't going to do what I wanted. And I said, "Well, you are." Anyway, I was expecting just to carry on and see what he did, and then if he mucked up, I'd kick him out. But unbeknownst to me, Barry used to do collections, and he had a guy he used to do collections with him, and they went over the day after me and grabbed him by the throat, dragged him outside, poured petrol over his car and said, "I hear you mucked up again. You'll be in it next time and I'll light it." And his mates were all standing around watching what was going on, see. And so I didn't hear about this, and I came to work the next day, and they came out, "Oh, Bruce, here's my card. I'm showing I'm a member, current member. I'll put the weights away. Don't worry." I thought, "Oh, that's pretty good. Looks like my talk had its effect." I thought, "How good am I, eh?" And anyway, it was about 6 months later. I think it was you who told me that Baz come over and said not to tell me. But that was a funny instance. But Eddie, when we started the gym at Balaclava, we had to get people to understand the rules, and that culture, that respect for other people in the gym is important, and you don't want to go around looking for a dumbbell on the floor, or go up to a leg press and it's got 10 plates aside. So you can't not have that. But I know before I bought Finlay's, the owner came over one day and said, "Oh, how you going?" And we're talking. And he said, "Well, your gym's nice and neat. Did you just clean it up, have you?" I said, "No, it's always like this, you know. How do you get them to put the weights away?" I tell them they've got to put the weights away or I'll kick them out. "Oh, wow." I said, "Yeah, you got to. It's a nuisance to start with, but you've got to do it." And so he went back and decided he was going to make everyone put their weights away. And one of the members at Balaclava was working at Camberwell.
Yeah.
And he tried to get people to do the right thing because he'd seen how it works here. And one of the guys pulled the gun on him. And what got me was, I mean, if they're going to pull the gun on me, you kick them out.
Yeah.
They're not going to shoot you in the middle of the gym to start with.
Yeah.
And he didn't get kicked out, and they jumped all over his car and dented his roof and his bonnet and that. Nothing was happened. That's why he's continued to have trouble.
Right. Okay. All right. You got any other ones?
No, that's really it. I mean, there's been lots of little things.
There's a few. I know there's a few.
There's always a few.
Yeah.
But look, the members here are really fully supportive, and an example of that was once there was a guy who was a schizo, and you know we were trying to look after him and that.
Yeah.
But
Was that the other one?
No, it was at Balaclava.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I was on during the day, and this guy was decided this guy was a homo, and he was looking at him. And I said, "Look, mate, look, leave him alone. He's not bothering you. Just chill it." Anyway, he kept going on. I said, in the end, I got to the stage. I said, "No, you're out. Get out." And he decided, "Oh no, I'm not getting out. I've got to smash you." Before he'd taken a step, 4 guys had grabbed him, you know, and they threw him out the door. And I said, "Understand something. If you come back, you're going over the rails this time." He never came back. But it's an indication of what it is. We're a family. We're friends, and they didn't want to see me get bashed up. And well, don't know what would happen, but anyway, they stepped in before the thing got going. And
Yeah, that's nice.
yeah,
I remember there was when you brought up that it was a bit of a crazy. There was a guy at Camberwell who he definitely had some problems, but he was pretty harmless, and you know he'd talk to himself, and you know sometimes he'd be talking to his friend, but sometimes he'd be talking to not his friend, and he'd get real worked up and start swearing and carrying on and get real upset at this person that he was talking to, and everyone sort of knew.
yeah,
So no one was really too bothered by it, but it just kept ramping up, and eventually and it was really sad because I think the gym was probably the only real place that you had to go to do anything. So, but when the members are worried about their safety and that, it's just you have to make sure that people are safe first and feel comfortable in the place first.
totally right. You do. But you get respect as well, and the members protect you. And an example I had was a guy there who was kicked out before I bought it, and I knew him from when I was training at Finlay's back in the 70s. And anyway, he when I bought the place, he said, "Oh, I hear you bought what's the name?" I said, "Yeah." And he was a wild man. He really was. Lovely guy, but a wild man. And he said, "Can I come back?" I said, "Of course you can." I said, "You know the rules. If you muck up, I'll kick you out." He said, "Yeah, that's fair." Never ever had a problem. Never ever had a problem. Yet when the other owners had it, they didn't show him any respect and carried on. And he mucked up. That's the whole thing. You've got to be two-way. There's another instance, a funny one, was I had a rule: if you had a fight in the gym, you kicked out.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this guy, actually stabbed the guy on the balcony outside.
Yeah. Okay.
And I caught up with him later on. I went and saw him. I said, listen, mate, you're done. You're not coming back. Oh, I remember if I said, you're not coming back. I'll kill you. I'll kill your family. I'll bomb it. I'll bomb the gym.
I remember you telling us that when you wouldn't have told us at the time, but maybe I was a teenager by the time you told me about that.
Yeah. And he was a wannabe gangster. You know, he carried a gun and all this little bull dust. I said, no, you're done, mate. You know, them's the rules. You know, don't care who you are. And his boss, who used to stage all fight nights, fight promoter and all that sort of stuff. He was in the underworld. He rang me up and says, you can't do that. I said, mate, I will do that. I've done that and it's not going to change. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, well, you'll have bad repercussions. I said, we'll see. Anyway, the guy that I kicked out told me he was going to kill everyone and anything, and one day I was coming home and he got in the back of me and bipping his horn and carrying on. So I stopped the car and got out. And he wouldn't get out of his car, but he drove off. He was going to belt me and all this. And apparently the police found out about it. I didn't tell them. And the sergeant said to me, Bruce, we know you've been there a long time and we respect you. He said, but do us a favour, next time you have a problem like that, stop the car, get him to get out of his car, then run him over. And then run him back over again to make sure, and said, then ring me and I'll come down and I'll fix it up.
Okay, that's good.
But in the whole, you know, we've never had a fight in the gym. The guy that I kicked out was on the outside, but people are respectful, and we're respectful of them, and it's.
Well, at least he had the respect to do the stabbing outside of the gym.
That's what he said to me.
A bit too close though. He told you that out of respect he didn't do it in the gym.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, you have these funny things, and they're I wasn't terribly worried because in my mind, you know, anyone who tells you they're going to kill you, never going to kill you anyway to start with. But you know, you've got your friends and that around you. I mean, the honesty, I feel safer here than most places.
That's good. So I don't have a good segue for this, but next thing I want to talk about is people that have trained here, that you've trained, and whether it be a sporting thing or whether it just be a general in their life thing, have been told that you'll never be able to do blah again. Like they'll never be able to play their sport or never be able to do whatever thing. Like I know that you've had quite a few people in.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, a lot of people, and it's a matter of just strengthening things up. Like an example was Paul Parker. He had a really bad bike accident, cyclist, he was a sprint cyclist, as you remember, and he crashed the velodrome when he was doing flat chat and landed bang on his back and couldn't move for ages, and he said, oh, you won't be able to you know, race again, you're going to have trouble with that. And
so Paul Parker trained with you for a long time. Was this before he really started with you, like, or was it when he just when was this?
No, he was training with us, yeah, and he'd been with me for a year or two, you know, might have been a little bit longer, and he was, you know, training to be a sprint. I was a sprint cyclist, and he was training, and had this accident, and everyone told him, oh no, his back was quite funny. It was like having a turtle. It was all black and so swollen, and he could hardly walk. And he, you know, said, "Oh, I'll never get it going." I said, "Yeah, come on, you've got to work it." And we got him in the gym, and we trained and had to take it slowly because he was pretty damaged, you know. Now, no problems.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
This is 20, 25, 30 years later.
Yeah.
He's, still squatting. I think he squats about three and a half plates a side for reps, and I'm talking 8 to 10 reps.
Yeah.
Without a spot. And his back's fantastic.
I mean, when I started coming into the gym, it's almost 20 years ago now. You know, he was one of the stronger guys there, and you wouldn't think that he ever had a problem like that.
Yeah. Well, Tony Hanley's another one. He was a great guy, and he still comes here. When he came to me, his back was so buggered, he could hardly lean over and touch his knees, and he was just an inline skater, speed skater.
Yeah.
And I mean, in world class.
Well, he coached like international level athletes as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. And anyway, he said, my back, So I said, well, that's what we've got to do. We've got to get your back going. So he got his back going. He had no problems whatsoever. In fact, I think he came fourth in the World Championships over in South America. But they wanted to fuse his back. And, luckily enough, we talked him out of that. But it's really a thing if you just strengthen up, especially with the back. The back needs the stability of the muscles to be strong. And the disc can get compressed and all that, but as long as you don't pinch a nerve, you can really strengthen up that core, and you won't know you've got a bad back.
I've known a fair few people to have ACL injuries, and if you look at the current stuff in sports medicine, they're saying that now, if you look at cutting edge sports medicine, they're saying that you don't need ACLs, but when you started with basketball, that was definitely not.
No, that was not the case.
That was definitely not the case, and even now, especially if someone's sort of early in their career, like they'll definitely get an ACL reconstruction, but not all players turn out that they need them. I think that your story about John Dorge was like the first that I'd heard of someone getting back into like basketball, at least without an ACL.
He did. He had his career best years after he did his ACL, and he had no ACL on his knee. I started with the Magic in '93, and he was getting over an ACL reconstruction. I sort of rehabbed him and had him squatting 140 kilos, and he's a 7 foot tall guy, so that's a lot of weight for a 7 foot tall guy to squat. And the surgeon who did the ACL looked at it and said, he actually wrote a letter to the Magic and said that his knee's so strong now, there's no problem, he's not going to do his ACL again. And 2 weeks later he did it. And Georgie was devastated, and rightly so, because he was, 30, I think.
Yeah.
And he said, I can't afford another year out. I said, I can't do it. And I said, well, why don't we rehab it? He needs an ACL. I said, well, let's see. And anyway, we got going, and, as you know, one of the most important muscles that supports stabilises the knee is the hamstring. And I knew, especially with an ACL, you've got to get the hamstring really strong. And Dorji was doing the stack in the leg curl.
Yeah.
That's how strong he got. He got phenomenal. He went from 106 kilos, something around there, to 130 kilos.
His body weight.
Yeah. He put a little bit of weight on. And it changed his game. He was a lot more physical.
Yeah.
And he had he was selected in the All-Star 5, starting centre in the Western Australia. He was in the Australian Olympic team.
He was an All-Star 5. Was that over breaking?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, because they had a bit of a rivalry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was really very impressive, and mind you, he had some funny things too with him, because Dorji was a bit of a drinker, and in the early days, he didn't really believe, I don't think, that we were going to succeed.
You mean with
the rehab?
Yeah, okay.
And it wouldn't work, and I said, yeah, you're gonna work. Oh yeah. Anyway, he would go at it on the grog, and I don't drink, so I could smell it on him. So I had this little system. Whenever he came in with smelling of grog, I'd pound him, and he never guessed. And about 3 or 4 months later on, he said, "You can smell the grog on me, can't you?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You bastard, I know what you've been doing." I said, "Guess what? I'm going to continue to do it too. You come here smelling the grog." I said, "I'm going to pound you."
That's good. That's good. Who else? Oh, okay. So who do you think has had the worst injury that you've rehabbed?
Oh, there was an old lady who fell and became a paraplegic, and she couldn't move her legs. And anyway, they were working with her, and she was in a hospital somewhere, and they saw she could start to move her toes. They said, "Oh, wow." So they said, "Well, see if we can get her walking." So they were working on her, and they couldn't get her because the hamstrings had atrophied so bad they'd shrunk, and she couldn't straighten her legs out. And in particular one side. And they came and asked me to fix her. Could I help? And I said, "Yeah, give it a go." And we were doing P&F stretching on the hamstring, and she was screaming at me. She said, "Oh, you bastard, it's hurting." And I said, "Shut up." And anyway, we got it. And I think it was about 3 months after she came up the first time. She had to be carried upstairs.
Wow. Okay.
She walked upstairs by herself, so that was good. I don't know what happened to her. She suddenly just disappeared. But
I don't remember her. Like, when was that?
No, that was mid-80s.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was one that was bad. And there's one called a Gray who's an amazing guy, amazing. Tiber.
Oh yeah, I know Tiber.
Yeah. Lovely guy. His knee was really bad. He worked so hard. Gosh, he worked hard in getting it right. And he's coaching basketball now, and he's fine.
Yeah.
But it was really, really good. And he was impressive. His dedication, his application. I was hurting him when I got him doing single leg squats, and he got up to I think 8 plates a side.
I don't think I've ever seen anyone do as much as him on that.
No, he was phenomenal. And that was with his crook leg. So he was. They're very inspirational people. Some people like that. When they're in a situation where they're up against it, the best comes out and they push through. So an example's Beck Cole.
Yeah, well, I've seen Beck in the gym for she's been around bodywork for 10 years now.
Yeah, she's been around a while.
It seems like it because
I don't know. I don't.
But she was in here a lot. She'd be in here 2-3 times every week.
Yeah, she really liked it. She likes the gym and she likes the results she was getting. I mean, she was recovering from an ACL and wasn't doing so well. I think that a year later she still was really struggling.
Well, she was having. It seemed like she was, in and out of injury for a long time there.
Yes. And actually, Guy asked me if I could look after her, fix her up. I said, yeah. So we did, and Beck's one of the big advocates of what we do here. She not only got her knee really better, she said, I was more explosive than I'd been since I was a kid. And I never thought I was going to be able to do that again. And she, was having sensational results in the WNBL
Well, it's been really good to see her actually get back into the sport, like after she's been spending so much time trying to get herself healthy again, and I don't know what's going on with basketball at the moment, but sort of up until everything shut down, you know, she was having massive success, like not just at WNBL, but like the 3x3 league.
Yeah.
So that was great.
She's supposed to be the best 3-on-3 player in Australia. She's ranked, and she had a great year last year, the year before, and you know it's a real credit to her, the way she worked and the effort she put in. You know, that's what happens. You know, one of the funny things a while ago, Dave Anderson was asked, could they do an article on him in Men's Magazine? You know.
Yeah.
He said, yeah. And he said what they were doing was interviewing and talking to elite sports people who'd been in their sport for a long period of time and were still going strong. And if there's any similarities in what they were doing. And I'd trained Dave since, I think, 98. And they interviewed him, and he and all the other guys who were interviewed for that same article all said that one of the biggest things was the weight program they did, and Dave in particular said how good it was with what he got out of it, and he was the only one though that had the same weight coach for the last 25 years or something. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's really an excitement for me too in getting the results with these people, and just seeing them be able to move on. Like Dave had a monstrous ankle done where he virtually broke his tibia and fibula and tore all his tendons in his ankle off in a game over in Russia. He came home to have it operated on and rehabbed, and the operation was great. And Bowden Babacek is really amazing too. He and I worked on Dave, and it was really really good to see him back, and he's still playing.
Yeah.
And without any problem with his ankle, and that's the big thing too, that he's still able to play at the elite level.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it sounds like it was a pretty big injury.
Yeah, he played in NBA and all that after that too.
Oh, that was before that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that was good. You mentioned working with Bowden. Have you collaborated with many other coaches at all with?
Not a lot, no. No, I don't really go out there to find other people. I work with a few people who trained with me that I sort of trained to go on.
Because I remember you talking a bit about Bowden when I was a bit younger. I don't really remember when you were doing stuff with him. But did you guys have much to do with each other, or it was more like he does his thing and you do your thing? And... Oh,
we work together. Yeah, we definitely work together. But you know, we have our own areas of expertise a little bit. But he's incredible. He's one of the real gentlemen of the game, and fantastic guy. You know, he's running drills and his strength training too is good, really good.
Just wondering if we're going to talk about. Why don't we leave it there for today?
Yep.
We'll do some stuff another time.
No trouble.
I wouldn't mind talking some of the stuff we were talking about in there about how we progress in the training.
Yes.
I thought that was some pretty good stuff, and that would be because with what we're doing with the coaching program, it needs to be kind of needs to be real sort of concise and thought out, so that you can get across a message in as little words as possible.
Yeah.
But some of that stuff for people that are interested in you know, their training or that, you know, they just follow Body World, they'd probably be interested in a bit of the discussion stuff as well.
Oh yeah. Well, I think that understanding that the effort is you know, it's got components, and you get there with the effort you get results. I think that's a really good direction and way to explain what we're talking about, because you can't do one or two things and not one or two others. You know, you've got to do the whole thing. It's
So
like saying,
you're talking about like making sure that you consider all the factors that are actually important, and you know, giving them an appropriate like weighting, you know, rather than just going, oh, that's important, that the rest forget it.
yeah, it's because it is that simple. If you put the effort in, you get the results. And efforts, you know, range of motion, speed of movement, weight, and recovery time. And if you do all four of those consistently, the way we talk about them, it'll all come out the end. You know, I've seen people in the gym who have been training really well and hard for a year or two or more, and still the same size. And they say, "Why I can't get any results?" And I said, "It's really simple. You know, it's eating. You've got to eat more protein. You can't drive your car without petrol. You can't grow unless you've got protein coming in." And that is so important. And it's honestly probably the hardest part is the eating side of it, eating consistently and well. It's also realistically a way of life, and it's not that hard to you know, do the diet correctly if you believe in what you're trying to achieve.
I think a thing that happens as well. I don't know if you've seen much of this, but I've seen a lot of people that are, you know, they're doing their training and they're like, okay, protein's important. Need to make sure I get my protein in, but then they're worried about putting on too much weight or like extra weight, and so they're cutting down on all their carbs and they're cutting down on all their fats, and it's like you need more than just a protein.
That's right. Right. It's got to be a thought-out diet, and mind you, I'm a huge believer that everyone is different, and everyone requires a little bit more or a little less, and that's about a matter of self-adjustment, seeing what you're going to get the best results with. But if you don't think about what you're doing and you skip meals and that, you're not going to get the results.
Yeah. And when you say you don't think about what you're doing, are you talking about actually like having a plan and following that plan and then looking at the results of that plan and then deciding what to do based on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think get some advice from people who know a little bit. Design a work or eating schedule that you think will suit your lifestyle, because everyone's lifestyle is different and some people can't get. So you've got to understand how you're going to fit the food in, and then working on that, and then seeing if you get the results. If you're not, then look at it again and see what you think, why there's the reason, and then adjust it again. And that you do. Yeah. There's no two ways about it. If you eat correctly and train well, you will get results. Your metabolism's like bull dust. If you eat well and train well, you will get results. And that's what people don't like. That they like an excuse.
Oh, it's my genetics.
Yeah, that's genetics. I've got a real fast metabolism. Bullshit. That's not like that.
Cool. All right.
Okie doke.
Finish up for today. I'll let you go back and hang out with Jimmy.
Give Jimmy a hard time.